Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Week 14 Early Line Show here on Dead Money Sports. Coming to you a little early here on Monday morning. We will be having the live stream during the Monday Night Football game between the New York Giants and the New England Patriots, as we are currently sitting at 2-2 with our Circa Million selections, with the Giants plus 7.5 as the final leg of our Week 13 selection. So hopefully going to be able to pull out a winning week after a rough start, with Kansas City not covering on Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone out there had a happy holiday weekend and a profitable one. I know it was rivalry week in college football, and we had some interesting matchups in Week 13 in the NFL. Some big upsets, like the Panthers as double-digit underdogs beating the Los Angeles Rams. And we had some underdogs that covered the spread but did not win outright. Could possibly see another one of those here tonight, but we're going to get into the Week 14 early lines, and we will jump right into that in one second here. So we've got the lines for Week 14. And first up is the Thursday night game. Big matchup, big playoff implications between the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. This line was -2. It's now -2.5. It's now -3 as we look. And it says it opened at -5.5. I never saw that. I saw it at 2.5. That's the look ahead line, I think, from earlier in the year. And look at the total, 53.5 to 50. The consensus is 53.5. So expecting a lot of points in this one. We've got two teams coming off the Thursday game last week, now playing Thursday again. So they're not getting the mini bye that most teams get when they play on a Thursday, because it's really just a week for them until their next game. Detroit is stumbling right now. They lost outright at home to the Packers, and the Dallas Cowboys were able to pull off the win at home against the Kansas City Chiefs, a game that I'm kind of upset with myself about, because I originally liked Dallas and I allowed some trends to manipulate my decision making and ended up with a loser instead of a winner. But we move on. Now, where this line's sitting right now at 3, I mean, it feels like it's the right number here. I know Detroit just hasn't looked like the Detroit we're used to seeing. Their offensive line is not playing at its, the elite level that we're used to seeing. The defense is struggling. Amon-Ra St. Brown could miss some time with an ankle injury. Ever since Dan Campbell took over the play calling for Detroit, this team has not been the offensive juggernaut that we saw earlier in the year. And meanwhile, we're seeing Dallas rounding into form. Their offense has been prolific all year. Now with the additions that they made on defense, plus some of their players being returning from the injury report and IR earlier in the year, particularly in their secondary, they're getting healthy and they're playing better and work themselves up into a spot where they could compete for a wild card, as the looks like the Philadelphia Eagles will more than likely win the NFC East. So this has big playoff implications. I mean, Detroit is now out of the playoffs. If the playoffs started right now, they would not be one of the teams that would be in the wild card, because you have Chicago, who is the number one team right now in the NFC. And then you've also got the Green Bay Packers, who are taking up one of those wild card spots. So both of these teams really need this game. This is going to be a big matchup for these two teams, and we will be live streaming during this game right here on YouTube. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell, because that way you're notified when we go live for these games. But I think the 3 is right, so I don't think I'm going to take a position on the side, and I won't be using this in the Circa Million Contest, but the 53.5 seems high. I don't think either one of these teams are going to have very sophisticated game plans. They really, they unloaded the basket. Dallas did against Kansas City, and Detroit is doing everything they can to try to win. I mean, they're going for it on fourth down every time. Now the regression to the mean for that is starting to show itself. They're not, again, a lot of this has to do with their offensive players and the health of their offensive players not being the same team we saw in seasons past. So they're not getting the effort that they were getting last year. So I'm not taking a position on the side in this one, but I am going to go with the under. And if you can find it at 54, which we're seeing there are some 54s out there in the market, I would take the under 54, because I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game, as both teams are going to look to, it's going to be like a boxing match. Like the first half will be like, throwing the jabs, and really trying to figure out what each side is doing. And then as they roll into the second half, I think we might see the offense open up a little bit more. But we've seen in past that on Thursday Night Football, most of the time these teams don't have a very sophisticated game plan. It's very, basic, getting back to basics, the things that they've been working on since the training camp, that allows them to, go back to the fundamentals, but doesn't really have the explosiveness that we've seen from these teams in other games throughout the season. So I'll take the under 54. I won't be taking a side in this game, and I certainly won't be using it for the Circa Million Contest. Washington and Minnesota. Washington -2 on the road taking on Minnesota. Is it going to be Brosner? Will it be JJ? Obviously JJ is better than Brosner, but he doesn't really meet the standard of an NFL quarterback right now. Meanwhile, Mariota played well, made one big mistake with that interception. That was one of our 2 wins that we got last night. We had them plus the 5.5. I was on the edge of my seat at the end of that game, because not only did I want it to end in regulation, either Washington doesn't make the field goal for overtime or goes down and scores the touchdown to win the game outright in regulation, because I knew if it went into overtime, there was a real chance we were going to lose that one. And what happens? Denver goes right down in OT, scores the touchdown, puts them up by 7, and we needed a 4th down conversion at the half. Well, they were originally at like the half-yard line or 1 yard line, then they lost yardage. So we needed the 4th down touchdown by Washington to get us within the number, and then they went for 2, didn't get it, lose by 1. But that was a sweat right down to the end. But we got the dub. Now that same Washington team is laying 2 points on the road against Minnesota. And from what I saw, I didn't have a lot of faith in the Denver offense. That was the reason why I chose Washington in that game for Week 13. And I still don't have, but I don't have much faith in this Washington defense. And as bad as Minnesota has looked, they do still have a lot of very good skill position players on this team. And if they can just find ways to get the ball to Jefferson and get the ball to Addison and Hawkinson and, really, find a way to get these quarterbacks easy completions. Now, they lost Aaron Jones, it looks like, at least for this week. It doesn't look like it's a season-ending injury, but I don't believe he'll be playing. And we're going to have to look and see exactly the injury report for Washington, because it was the Sunday night game, so we haven't seen exactly who's in and who's out for this week. But as of right now, I would take the home dog in Minnesota plus the 2 points. I don't have a lot of faith in this Washington defense, and the offense was stagnant. They were able to run the ball. I will say that. They were able to run the ball against Denver's stout defense, but they struggled. There was a lot of Marcus Mariota led the team in rushing yards in that game. Is he going to be able to do that against this blitz-happy team in Minnesota? I don't know. I don't think so. And again, as they say, you're never as bad as your worst game. And Washington, a little bit, they're going to get a little less time to prepare. I mean, they were in at home, so they didn't have to travel, so it's not that big of a deal. But I just think in that hostile environment in Minnesota, I think the Vikings are going to be a little, upset with their performance against Seattle. I mean, obviously Seattle's a really good defense, but they still were good against Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold in the Seattle offense did not do much. JSN did not have a good game. Sam Darnold did not have a good game. It was essentially the Seattle defense just suffocating Brosner. And then the pick six was a big swinging play that really took the momentum and completely flipped it to Seattle's side. And once they were playing from behind and that Seattle defense was able to pin their ears back and just go after the quarterback, they had no respect for the passing game. And Mike McDonald has been awesome all year at scheming up his defense. But again, we saw this Minnesota defense do really well against that Seattle offense that's been pretty potent passing the ball most of the season. And Washington does not have that caliber of passing game. Now, McLaurin, Debo looked good. I mean, obviously McLaurin caught the touchdown at the end of the game to get us within the spread. His second week, he was on a pitch count. He wasn't out there as much as, he wasn't playing all the snaps. He was essentially coming out on third downs and key plays for Washington, so he should be more involved in this week's game plan. But I'm not a fan of Dan Quinn. I mean, obviously, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, so I've seen his coaching style up close and personal. And to me personally, I think he's a better defensive coordinator than he is a head coach. I think he should remain a defensive coordinator because he doesn't make good decisions in the moment in games as the head coach. And I could see this coming back and rearing its ugly head. We're going to have to wait and see exactly who's playing for Minnesota. If it's J.J. McCarthy, I like Minnesota. If it's Brosner, this is probably a pass for me. But as of right now, I'm going to take Minnesota plus the 2 at home and hope this defense can stand up tall for another week against this mediocre to bottom level Washington offense. Miami taking on the New York Jets. Miami on a hot streak, winning now 3 games in a row. I said it before their first win against, I think it was Washington, or the week before that they were going to go on a run here. If they can win this game, they've got to play the Steelers next week. If they win that game, they'll be 7-7, but their schedule certainly gets a lot more difficult after that. I mean, obviously Pittsburgh is no pushover. Their defense is always, can always be good. They do have good players on defense, so we'll see where they go at that one. But first, they've got to beat this Jets team. Now, the New York Jets, they won against Atlanta, and Miami won against the Saints. The Saints covered the spread, though, and almost pulled out the victory. We were on the Saints. That was our other win. Washington and New Orleans were the 2 wins that we've had so far this week. That was another nail-biter. Really don't know how New Orleans was able to get back within that number, but they pulled it off. It almost pulled off the upset. Meanwhile, the Jets really should have lost that game. They were outgained by Atlanta. Atlanta had more first downs than they did. I mean, it was just I think they won the turnover battle. I think they won it. I don't think they had any turnovers, and I believe Atlanta only had the 1. But their special teams, again, is the difference maker in this one. And Nick Folk nailing that kick in those tough elements out there was just, I was watching it, and I'm literally standing in front of my television like, Did he make it? Did he not make it? Because it was like a low line drive, and had enough gas to make it over the crossbar and give the Jets the win after Atlanta had the ball with an opportunity to go down and score, couldn't do anything, and had to punt the ball back to New York, giving them an opportunity to win that game in overtime. But now they're taking on this Miami team whose defense is playing better. The offense is running the ball well. Tua is still struggling. He's not a viable franchise quarterback moving forward. Miami really needs to look to move on from him in the future. But, I mean, for this week, taking on the Jets here on the road, division matchup, the line is 2.5. The total's 40.5. So not expecting a high scoring game in this one. But I'm going to take Miami. I talked about how I thought Miami was going to go on a run, and I think this will be another victory. A lot of people are going to put more stock in that win by the New York Jets over Atlanta, but I really think that was as much Atlanta losing that game. We've seen them blow fourth quarter leads in 3 weeks now. I mean, this Atlanta defense just cannot hold a lead, and the Atlanta offense just couldn't, keep possession of the ball to win the game in the end. Miami, I think, will be able to run the ball in this one. They've got Darren Waller back. That's going to be a nice addition to their passing game. He also helps out in the run game. I'm not buying this New York Jets team. I think they're going to be, a little more popular in the betting market this week after their win against Atlanta and the fact that they're at home. But I think Miami's defense is playing better than they have. Tyrod Taylor is an okay backup, but he is a backup. And they don't really have much going in the offensive side of the ball. So, yes, I'm going to take Miami minus the 2.5 in this one. We'll have to keep an eye on any changes in the who's playing, but as it stands right now, I'm laying the 2.5 with Miami. We'll see where this number goes. I mean, as it sits right now, the Jets are getting 76% of the tickets, but only 58% of the money. So obviously, even though they are getting more bets placed on the Jets, the larger bets are coming in on Miami. So give me the Miami Dolphins minus the 2.5. And I have this one in my first 5 that my first thoughts for the 5 that I'll use for this week. So if this line doesn't adjust anymore, if it stays at 2.5, this will certainly be a play for the Circa Million 5. Tennessee and Cleveland. Tennessee finally falling back down to earth. Didn't get any non-offensive scores in their game and only scored, I think, 3 points in that game. Let's look, we got the box score. Yeah, 3 points here. But if you look at this, I mean, they were certainly outplayed, but not by much. I mean, look at the third downs. 3 for 13 for the Jags. Their defense wasn't half bad. I mean, they only gave up 2.6 yards per run on 27 attempts by this Jacksonville team. And Jacksonville had 13 penalties, and the Titans had 10. So now they're going up against Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders going to start again this week. Obviously, they struggled as well, only scoring 8 points in that game against San Francisco. But, you expected them to struggle against that Robert Saleh defense. Rookie quarterback making his first start. Now they're laying 3.5 at home against this Tennessee Titans team. A Tennessee Titans team that's been frisky all year. Look at this total, though, 33.5. They are not expecting very many points in this game. They are telling you, we think Cleveland's defense is going to be very good. We think Tennessee's defense is going to be good. This is going to be a close, tight matchup. Quentin Judkins for Cleveland had a good game, though, running the ball. Cleveland showed they can run the ball, but they've got to clean up the penalties. For Tennessee, I mean, this is just an ugly matchup all the way around. I mean, just an ugly, ugly game. I don't have an opinion on this one. I really don't know what to do with this because I would take Tennessee because they've obviously had more ATS wins than straight up wins by a significant amount. So they've been fighting and maintaining, but this is on the road. They've played much better at home. They've been at home like the last couple of weeks until this past game. No, they played at home. So this will be the first road game that they've had in about 6 weeks because I think they had 4 or 5 games at home and they had the bye week mixed in there. So they're finally going out on the. So you know what? I'll take Cleveland minus 3.5. I think this Tennessee team's going to struggle. Cleveland's defense plays better at home. This is the first time Tennessee's going on the road in over a month, and you just don't know what kind of performance you're going to get from a team when they are finally having to, travel after not traveling for at least a month now away from their home stadium. And they were really trying to get I don't think they've won. They have not won a game at home yet. So they were really fighting hard in those home games trying to get a victory in front of their home crowd. They're not going to have the home crowd behind them in this one. And I could certainly see this Cleveland defense creating some turnovers. We know Cam Ward is prone to fumbles. And Myles Garrett, they lost Collins, which is a big loss to their defensive line. He really takes the pressure off of some of these other defensive linemen, including Myles Garrett, to not allow the double team. So that's a tough loss for Cleveland along their defensive front. But I still think they'll be able to perform well on defense. And the fact that it's 3.5, I think a lot of people are going to see the 3.5 for Tennessee and want to take that hook. But I'm going to lay the 3.5 with Cleveland here. And hope that the defense can shut down this Tennessee team. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. This is a big game. Big game. This game right here has serious implications for the AFC North Division. As it stands right now, Baltimore is now leading the division. They've overtaken Pittsburgh, with Pittsburgh losing to Buffalo. Kind of upset with myself. If you watch the NFL contest show, I had Buffalo on the show, and I swapped them out for New York. Now, New York hasn't played yet. The Giants haven't played yet, so we could have swapped a winner for a winner, but I could have used Buffalo for Kansas City, or I could have used Buffalo for Indy had I waited to submit my picks, because when Indy, first they announced that Daniel Jones is playing with a hairline fracture, but also that line went from 4.5 all the way down, I think, to 3 by game time, where it was only -3. So a lot of money was coming in on the Texans, and we saw why with Stroud coming back. Texans really looked like a team on the rise. Their defense is outstanding. But this Pittsburgh-Baltimore matchup, Pittsburgh losing to Buffalo on Sunday, Baltimore losing to Cincinnati on Thursday. The Baltimore game, they have 5 fumbles in that game? It was just, you just don't see that very often from a Ravens team. Now they got Pittsburgh coming into their place. And as it stands right now, the line is consensus at 5.5. Total sitting at 43. Ooh, excuse me. The Baltimore defense has not been great, and the Pittsburgh offense has been not good either. Division matchup. These teams know each other well. It's always a battle between these two. But I like Baltimore minus the 5.5 here. I think this is a 7-point win for Baltimore. I think they were embarrassed by Cincinnati, but obviously the turnover differential was that was the key. And what do we know about fumbles? Fumbles are not predictable. So when you have 5 fumbles, lose 5 fumbles in one game, that's just a statistical anomaly that you don't often see in the NFL, and it was certainly the leading factor of why Cincinnati was able to pull off the upset. Obviously, having Joe Burrow back helped them on offense, but it was really the turnovers. I think you're going to get the best version of Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore team. They're really going to come out and try to put their foot down and take a commanding lead in this AFC North Division title match, or this fight that they've got going on with Pittsburgh. I have no faith in the Pittsburgh offense. Aaron Rodgers did not look good. Obviously, he's playing hurt, but he just doesn't look, he looks like an old football player that should probably have retired last year. You're really starting to see the wear and tear of the abuse that these quarterbacks take. And as a 40-something-year-old quarterback who's been hit, over and over again over his career, he's now, duck and chuck. He does not want to get hit. He's getting the ball out quickly. The passes aren't as accurate as they normally are. And if this Baltimore pass rush can get after Rodgers, we could really see him crumble under the pressure. So I'm going to take Baltimore minus the 5.5. We'll keep an eye on this one, see where the line goes. Let's see what it is. And yeah, look, you're getting 58% of the tickets, but 62% of the money. So it's about equal. You're getting about the same amount of money or same amount of ticket percentage as you are money, but a little bit more on the money. So a little bit smaller bets are coming in. You see this line opened at 6.5, now at 5.5. I think that could be because of the overtime rules. Maybe they're trying to get in on the 6.5 early and then come back in middle if this line moves anymore. But as it sits right now at 5.5, I like Baltimore, and I like the over 43 in this one, as I think Baltimore will put up at least 28 points in this one. I could see this being like a 28-20 game. So give me Baltimore minus the 5.5 in this matchup. Seattle taking on Atlanta. Seattle got the win, but did not look very strong on offense. Their defense looked great, but take that with a grain of salt. You had an undrafted free agent quarterback making his first start on the road in one of the more hostile environments to play in Seattle, against a very, very good Seattle defense. Now they've got to face Atlanta. They got to travel across the country, go to Atlanta, take on this Falcons team coming off a tough loss against the Jets, where they lost on a last-second 50-plus yard field goal when they had an opportunity to win. I will not have a side. I will not have anything to do with this game. I don't have confidence in Atlanta, so we won't be betting this game. It will not certainly be in our Circa 5, as I've already crossed it off the list of possible games that we'll be using for the Circa Million Contest, because as an Atlanta Falcons fan, I've said it repeatedly, if I actually think they can win the game, then I'll use them in the contest, and that's why we're 4-1 against the spread with them this year. This is not a spot where I would take Atlanta. So if you like Seattle, it's 8. They covered the big number the past week. They failed to cover double digits the week prior. If you're laying 8, you're essentially looking at a double-digit victory for Seattle. Will Drake London be back? He's a big addition to the passing game. He really changes the dynamic of Atlanta's offense. Kyle Pitts was their leading receiver in the game against the Jets. So, yeah, I mean, I want nothing to do with this game at all. As a Falcons fan, I'm just Xing it out of it. We'll move on to the next game. Indianapolis taking on Jacksonville. This line has moved from 2.5 down to 1.5. Jags are getting 1.5 points at home. Jacksonville off the big win, winning in Tennessee, only giving up 3 points to the Titans. But they did not look very good. I mean, I brought it up earlier. I'll bring it up again. Look at these penalties. 13 penalties for 98 yards. Only 2.6 yards per rush on 27 attempts. They had 3 sacks, and they won the turnover battle 2-0. But if you look at the Colts, although they did lose the game against a very good Tennessee team, no turnovers, only 5 penalties. They were 2 for 4 in the red zone. That's the struggle. I mean, they had that fumbled snap on a 4th down try in the red zone that they did not get any points after that drive early in the game. Averaging 3.7 yards a carry. Only gave up 1 sack. With Daniel Jones and his bum leg, they only gave up 1 sack against that very, very good Houston pass rush, although they did pressure Daniel Jones a lot into early throws, bad throws. I mean, he was 14 for 27, but did have 7 yards per pass attempt. Again, no turnovers, which is always a big deal, but they were 3 for 10 on 3rd downs against this very good Tennessee defense, and 0 for 2 on 4th downs. And the Colts coming off an overtime game where they had to be on the field for, I believe it was like 90 plays, now had to play 70 plays, 71 plays again. So they were just gassed by the end of this game. And the fact that the Colts offense could not maintain drives and allow their defense to rest on the sideline was a big factor in what happened later on in this game, where Houston was able to score some points and get the victory. And look, they were 14 of their 24 first downs were in the passing game, and then they had 3 penalties, 3 first downs off of penalties. So even though they were only 5 penalties by the Colts, 3 of them gave Houston automatic first downs, which those are just killers when you're giving them cheap first downs like that. But again, I don't have as much faith in this Jacksonville defense. I showed you the stats from Jacksonville against the Tennessee Titans with all their penalties, and the fact that they really did not dominate as much as the score would indicate. It really had to do with the turnover differential. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball as well as they did against this Colts defense that is really good against the run. They did lose Sauce Gardner. That's kind of it's a concern. We need to look at Jacksonville, see exactly who's going to be playing for them this week. I originally liked the Colts. It was at 2.5. Now it's at 1.5. Indy has played much better at home than they have on the road. This is a huge game. This has big playoff implications as well, as Indianapolis, who was 7-1 to start the season, is now on the outside looking in for the division title and could potentially be knocked out of the playoffs altogether if Houston continues on their upward trajectory and they continue to struggle. They could maybe even not make the playoffs after starting the season 7-1. But I like the Colts. As it stands right now, I like the Colts in this game. I think they're going to bounce back. They did not play bad against this Houston defense. Their offense struggled on 3rd downs, and their defense was gassed. Now they're going to have an opportunity to rest up and get prepared to go into Jacksonville, play Jacksonville, who I think is a little bit of smoke and mirrors. You know, they've looked good against bad competition, struggled against good competition. They're Jekyll and Hyde on what you're going to get from Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to take the Colts minus the 1.5 right now as it stands. Not sure if this is going to make the final 5. We'll have to look more into the injury reports throughout the week and make a final decision on that one. But as it stands right now, I'm going to take the 10.5 or the minus 1.5 with Indianapolis to bounce back off that tough loss at home last week. Chicago and Green Bay, another big game, another division title up for grabs. Chicago, the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. Green Bay hot on their trail after their upset win on the road against Detroit on Thanksgiving. Now they are laying 6.5 at home. The total, 44.5. Chicago has looked good. Their defense is very opportunistic with the turnovers. Green Bay has been slow to start. these games. They have been passing the ball well. They're going to have extra time to prepare for this game after playing on Thursday, while Chicago got the big win on Friday against Philadelphia on the road. They looked really good in that game, but I think Green Bay is the right side here. Now, this did not make my first five that I looked at, because this could certainly be a tighter game between these two teams, but Chicago's just been on fire recently, and at some point they're going to come up against a team that's going to have that they're not going to win the turnover battle on. And this Green Bay defense is actually playing really well. Their pass rush is good. Micah Parsons is like he's the closer in the fourth quarter. They come in and they shut teams down at the end of the game. So I like Green Bay minus the 6.5 here. And I take the under 44.5. I mean, it's tough to take the under and lay 6.5 with this team. So I'm not going to get involved in the total, but I do like Green Bay minus 6.5 here. I know it's a division rivalry game. The public's going to want to back Chicago with how they've been playing and how they've been covering the spread in games, winning outright as underdogs. They've been on this very long win streak, but they're gonna face a Green Bay team, I think, that's just a little bit better than them, a little bit better coached. The offense can move the ball passing. I think their defense can stymie Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson's offense. And Micah Parsons in this defense is going to come in and shut them down in the fourth quarter, not allow them to pull off the spectacular last-second wins that they've had in recent games. So give me the Green Bay Packers minus 6.5, because I also think, well, let's look. 83% of the tickets are on Chicago, but only 64% of the money. So overwhelmingly, Chicago is being bet, but the larger bets are coming in on Green Bay, where you've only got 17% of the tickets, but you've got 36% of the money coming in on Green Bay. So if you like Green Bay, I suggest you try to maybe get it now, because you might not see the 6.5 come Sunday. New Orleans taking on Tampa Bay. New Orleans with the cover, but loss against Miami. They had an opportunity to win that game. How? I don't really know. There was not much to be inspired by the offense. Shuck actually did not play completely bad, though. I mean, if you look at the numbers are not as bad as the score would indicate. I mean, he's 26 of 38 for 5 yards a pass. He had the one interception, but it was the fumble as well that almost cost him. But look at the rushing for Miami. 5 yards a carry. I mean, it's hard to overcome something like that when a team can move the ball like that against you. Tampa Bay got the win at home against the Arizona Cardinals. It was a tight battle. That was a push as the game ended 3. The line was 3 in that game. So if you had the Cardinals, or if you had either side, you got half a point in the contest anyway. And now the Bucks laying a big number. -9. You're seeing 8.5, 7.5, but the consensus is 9. Total 42.5. And look at this, 92% of the tickets and 90% of the money is coming in on Tampa Bay. So everybody early betting is loving the Bucks right now. No surprise then why this number is just jumping up. As it showed, 7.5 was the opening number. Now it's all the way up to 9, 1.5. I can't get behind this New Orleans team 2 weeks in a row. I did not see anything that I truly liked from their offense. They were very opportunistic. The defense created a turnover, which helped them, but they were gashed in the run game. Tampa Bay's offensive line is really looking good. Baker Mayfield looked healthy. They're throwing the ball pretty good. I mean, they got Godwin back. Egabuke was not the biggest contributor, but they were able to move the ball. I just don't know what kind of performance you're going to get from New Orleans at this time. I mean, they're eliminated from the playoffs. They really have nothing to play for other than pride. Their defense has been okay, but this is just a bad spot for New Orleans off of that loss to Miami, and now they've got to come back and play in Tampa. So I don't think this will reach my Circa card, and I would try to find the best number possible for Tampa. But as it sits right now, if you could find a 7.5 still anywhere, or even 8.5, I would take Tampa Bay with this in this one, because again, winners cover most of the time. We did see 3 teams in week 13 cover the spread without winning, but that's when you see that many teams do that, that's not something you see week over week. Totals only sitting at consensus of 42.5. So you got some 43s, 43.5s out there. I just don't see much happening from this New Orleans offense. They were very underwhelming. Shuck, although he did pass the ball okay, in critical situations, I don't think he's very good. And I could see this Tampa Bay team just really turning up the dials, especially on defense. Todd Bowles is going to blitz this rookie quarterback, not give him any time to sit back there and make decisions, and we could see some turnovers. Kamara's still out. They didn't run the football very well in that game. I mean, they had 27 attempts for 81 yards, only 3 yards a carry. So not the best with their Neal, the rookie running back. So, yeah, I'm going to look for the best number I could find. I wouldn't try to maybe wait and see if it comes back down. Although with the way the betting is with the 90 and 93, yeah, if you like Tampa Bay, you're gonna want to get on this now and try to find the best number that you can. But I like Tampa in this game with the total. This is like a 27-13 game. So I would take the under. If you could find the under 43.5, take the under. Denver taking on Las Vegas. Boy, has Las Vegas just looked bad this year. I mean, how bad? How bad does Kenny Pickett have to be in practice for this team to continue to stick with Geno Smith? Now, I've been saying that I do not like Geno Smith as a quarterback. He struggles in the red zone, and now he's just struggling everywhere. Their defense is not good against outside of Max Crosby, and you can see the frustration with Max Crosby now that he's literally just freelancing and not sticking to the fundamentals of their defensive scheme, and it's opening up gaps in their defense, which is just leading the other teams to be able to score. I mean, they just looked so bad against the Chargers. They only had, 2 sacks? How many sacks did they have? 1 sack. No, I'm sorry. They had 3 sacks against the Chargers, and their not very good offensive line. They were 2 for 8 on third downs. I mean, they only ran 46 plays on 10 possessions. I mean, that's just bad. 12 total first downs, with 2 of them coming on penalties. So really, they only earned 10. 9 of them in the passing game, 1 of them rushing. I mean, they were able to score some garbage time points. So this score, the final score, actually looks better than the game really would have indicated. I mean, they ran the ball 31 times for 18 yards. That is just unacceptable. Meanwhile, the Chargers had 192 yards rushing in this game. I mean, damn. You're just seeing a team that's quitting. And the Denver has not blown anybody out, but they've been on this winning streak. And then obviously they played on Thursday a few weeks back, and the Raiders kept it tight. It was only a 3-point win by Denver. Came right down to the end. But that's another one of these Thursday night games where the short prep time, not very intricate game plans. Now you're going to see this Denver team there. Obviously, they played on Sunday night. They were on the road in Washington, so they got to travel back home. So they're going to have a little less time to prepare. But this Raiders team is just bad, and they're just not. They're not involved in the week to week anymore. I think they've essentially given up. You're just seeing the overwhelming frustration by these teams, and so I like Denver in this one, even though it's a 7.5. I think Denver's defense is just that good. The offensive line for Las Vegas is just that bad, and a lot of people are going to see this number with Denver not really blowing teams out. I mean, they're only winning by 3 or less their last few games. Most of their games have been decided by 3 points. The last game was decided by 1 against Washington with the 2-point attempt. If they had gone for 1, Denver would have probably won that game by 3 again if they tied it up, but Washington obviously went for 2 and the win. But I'm willing to lay the 7.5 here with Denver. Their defense is just outstanding, and I think they're good. Now they got Patrick Surtain back. He's going to have another week in the back from his injury. He was playing with a harness. He still looked good. Now he'll be a little more flexible. Maybe won't have to use the harness. Riley Moss looked good. He wasn't getting tagged for penalties the way he had in previous games. Let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. See how many we had. Yeah, they only had 5 penalties in this game, which is a big upgrade for this Broncos team. I mean, they had 23 first downs to 30. So, I mean, Washington moved the ball on them, but they have a much better offensive line and better receivers on Washington, and actually a better quarterback, I would say, with Mariota's mobility, because again, he did lead the team in rushing with 10 attempts for 55 yards. That's not Geno Smith. Are we going to see Kenny Pickett? I mean, this Raiders team is just in total disarray. The more you look at the body language of the players on the field, the more you see this team has just not. They're not in on the coaching. They're not in on the games anymore. They're just going through the motions, I think, at this point. So I know it's a big number with Denver not really blowing teams out, but this is the one. I think they're going to want some get back for that Thursday night game where the Raiders almost beat them and kind of made them look like not as good as they are. This will be a home game for Denver, as you're going to get a lot of Broncos fans out in Vegas. It's not far from Denver to get to Vegas. It's a single flight from their airport. Not expensive going from Denver to Las Vegas for flights. So I expect this to be essentially a home game for Denver. People in Colorado are going to want to get out of that cold weather and go and spend a couple of days vacationing in Las Vegas, do a little sightseeing, go to some shows, and then go to the game. We see it over and over and over again with teams that have fan bases that travel. Denver is one of those teams. This is a division matchup. They do not like each other, so I don't see Sean Payton taking his foot off the throttle. I think they beat this game. I think they beat this Raiders team handily. This is going to be probably a 13-point, if not more, victory by Denver. 24-13, maybe 27-13. I don't see Las Vegas really doing much in this game. And look at the total, 40.5. So they're not expecting much from Vegas in the scoring department. So I will lay the 7.5 with Denver. LA Rams traveling south to Phoenix to take on the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams, losers of last week's game as a 10.5-point road favorite against the Carolina Panthers. Very uncharacteristic game by Matthew Stafford, as he had multiple interceptions in this game that really allowed Carolina to stay in it. I mean, they had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. And the Carolina Panthers played a clean game. But look at this: the LA Rams only had 1 penalty for 5 yards. I mean, that is just incredible that they only had the 1 penalty. 2 for 5 on third down, so not even a lot of third down chances, but they allowed Carolina to convert nearly half of theirs, and they really allowed them to move the ball on the ground. But look at this, 7.2 yards per rush by the Rams. It was just the turnovers. That was the biggest difference in this game. You take away those turnovers, and I don't think they lose this game. And again, that's very, very uncharacteristic game by Stafford, as we've seen. I think he only had 2 interceptions on the entire year coming into this game. Now they're laying 8 points on the road against Arizona. Arizona losing on the road to Tampa Bay. Jacoby Brissett, still the starting quarterback. We don't know where Kyler Murray is in his recovery from his foot injury. We'll have to look at the injury report. I haven't really made too much of a decision on this one because I haven't had a lot of time to go over the numbers with the Arizona Tampa Bay game. I mean, they had more more first downs than them. They had 2 turnovers, though, so that's the big tough one with a fumble loss and an interception. Only 4 penalties, so not bad. 2 for 2 in the red zone. 5 yards per rush. And they were able to throw the ball pretty well, 29 of 40. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's really slinging the ball for this Arizona team. At home, division matchup, total at 48. They're expecting some scoring. Can the Rams defense do anything the Cardinals defense do anything against this potent Rams offense? Can they stop Devontae Adams in the red zone? He had 2 more touchdowns this week. Boy, this is a tough matchup. We're going to have to come back to this one on Thursday. So be sure to join us on Thursday for the watch party and the Circa Lines release show, where we'll have a better feel for where the lines are for these games and what games we're going to probably be going with for the upcoming week in the Circa contest. But as it stands right now, I just don't have a side in this one. I don't have a side in the spread or the total. We'll have to come back to this one once I had an opportunity to really look at the deeper numbers with Arizona, because I haven't even gone over that yet. I haven't had an opportunity. It's still Monday afternoon, waiting on the Monday Night Football game, where we will be live streaming during that game, as it is the last leg for our Week 13 Circa picks. We are 2-2 right now. We need this one to have a positive week, keep ourselves in contention, as the leaders in the contest really struggle. The person in first place went 1-4. So we could still be in this battle with 5 weeks to go, as long as we don't have this losing week. We need this 3rd point to keep us within striking distance. And then next week, hopefully go 5-0. So, yeah, we'll come back to the Rams in Arizona on Thursday, as I don't have an opinion. Cincinnati and Buffalo. Buffalo off the big win. Cincinnati off the big win. Joe Burrow back for Cincinnati. He will also have T. Higgins probably back with Jamar Chase, taking on the Buffalo Bills. Bills laying 5.5 at home after beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were -3 on the road. Total is 51.5. Big rushing game. Big rushing game for Buffalo. Big numbers for them. Where's that game at? I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I took them out. The Giants better get the cover. I'm going to be upset that I didn't use Buffalo and remove Indy. But again, I submitted early because of the Thursday game. Note to self, note to anyone who is going to be competing either in the Circa contest next year or any of these handicapping contests like this, where you have the Thanksgiving Black Friday games. If you're going to use the Thursday games, make sure you're using more than one game, Because if you're going to submit all of your picks prior to the start of the Thursday games, you need to know the injury reports for the remaining 4 games. So you need to be at least using 2 games or more on the Thursday-Friday slate to make it worthwhile using the submitting your picks early for Thanksgiving. I learned that lesson the hard way this week, and it's something I will take with me for the remainder of the time that I am in these contests, that if I'm going to use anything on the Thanksgiving slate, I'm using at least 2 games, if not more, between Thursday and Friday. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile to risk the potential, like what I saw this week with the lines moving against me, injury reports coming out late on Friday and Saturday that completely changed the dynamics of the game, where I would have certainly not gone with Indianapolis had I known what I knew by Saturday. But I had already submitted my picks on Wednesday night because of the Thursday start with the Chiefs and Dallas. But look at this rushing by Buffalo. 249 yards, 51 rushing attempts, 4.9 yards per rush. James Cook went off. Obviously, Josh Allen went off. Look at the time of possession, 42 minutes to 18 minutes. That is just domination on the offensive side of the ball. 74 plays to 43 plays. So their defense is going to be well rested going into this game. And the offense is just looking incredible. Cincinnati needed 5 fumbles against Baltimore to get that win. I don't see that happening again. I think Buffalo's secondary is shaky. Their defense is shaky. Cincinnati's offense was very opportunistic, but I'm not sold that they somehow figured it all out just because they were able to beat Baltimore with 5 fumbles. So as it stands right now, let's see what we got here. We've got 72% of the tickets on Cincinnati and 87% of the money. This line opened at 5.5, and it's stuck somewhere right at 5.5. You have one shop in DraftKings, which is at 6. Everywhere, well, right here, 6. Other than that, it's pretty much painted at 5.5 across the board. With all this coming in on Cincinnati, everybody's feeling like with Joe Burrow back, this team is back offensively. Total sitting at 52, 51.5. So they're expecting a high-scoring game in this one. What version of Buffalo are we going to see? Will they get their offensive linemen back? They were playing with 2 backup offensive linemen last week who came in and played well. Now we've got to see if they get Deion Dawkins and their other guys back. 1 week sample with their offensive line backups look good. I don't have any faith in the Cincinnati defense. And we'll have to see what we get from Buffalo. I mean, obviously Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are outstanding passing the ball. Will the offensive line for the Bengals be able to protect Joe Burrow week over week from last week? As it stands right now, I'll take Buffalo minus the 5.5. I know this number right here says that they're getting a lot more bets on Cincinnati, but this could also be people getting out ahead of maybe some line movement that they're seeing in the future and trying to maybe find the middle. But this won't be in my 5, I don't think. It's not in the first 5 that I have my first thought. So I doubt it'll be in my Circa contest, but I still have no faith in Cincinnati's defense. I don't think they've figured anything out. And Josh Allen just brings a totally different dynamic. And again, I don't see them getting five turnovers like they did against Baltimore in that upset win on Thanksgiving. Ooh, not play-by-play, team stats. Here we go. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, turnovers. Look at this. 5 turnovers. Okay, they had four fumbles lost and then 1 interception. So they had 5 turnovers to 1. I mean, and that's just a recipe for a losing formula there. But the Ravens were still able to rush for 5.6 yards per play, 6.4 yards per pass. Looks like Lamar Jackson did struggle. He had the one interception. Were they averaging 6.1 yards per play? They were only 3 for 10, while the Bengals were 8 for 19 on third downs. We'll come back to this one again on Thursday, but as it stands right now, I'd take Buffalo. It's not a strong opinion with the Cincinnati Bengals passing game, so we'll have to see where we end up later in the week. So again, be sure to join us on Thursday right here at Dead Money Sports for the Lines release show and the Thursday night watch party. We've got a good one in Dallas and Detroit, Houston and Kansas City. Kansas City needs every single victory from here on out just to maybe make the wild card, while Houston is on an upward trajectory. Their defense is just outstanding. They are on the heels of the wild card and potentially even the AFC South title. We know that they've got some division games still to go, so we could certainly see this Houston team fighting for that AFC South title, and their defense is just playing really well. D'Amico Ryans has got this team really tuned up, and I just don't know what we're getting from Kansas City. This is the fourth week in a row that Kansas City has been a -3.5 favorite. They've only won one of those games, and they didn't cover. They beat the Colts by 3 when they were -3.5. They were -3 against Denver. They lost outright. They were -3.5 against Dallas. They lost outright. Now they're -3.5 again against Houston. Give me Houston. I have Houston. This game was +5.5 yesterday. Now it's all the way down to +3.5. So money is obviously coming in on Houston, and yes, it is. 87% of the tickets and 92% of the money. So no wonder why this number opening at 5.5 has dropped all the way to +3.5, and the total has come down from 42.5 to consensus of 41. But the spread is really the indicator here that the sharps and anyone who's betting early in the week really liked Houston. With the 3.5, give me the hook. Give me Houston +3.5, and this line could certainly make my 5 for the Circa Million Contest, as I don't have faith in the Kansas City offensive line being able to protect Patrick Mahomes. We've seen in games where he is pressured, he is having turnover-worthy throws. They're struggling to run the ball. They were really counting on a lot of fourth down conversions. Now that is starting to trend back to the mean, as they were really good at converting fourth downs. Now they're starting to not get those fourth down conversions. This is a tough Houston team and an offense that's on the rise. They kind of found a running game. I don't know if Marks is going to be back. He did tweak an ankle, but it looked like Chubb was running with some conviction. So I really like Houston in this one. So give me the Houston Texans plus the 3.5. And I would take the under 42 or 42.5 if you can find it. This is like a 21-17 game. I don't expect it to be very high scoring, but I think Houston will get the dub with Collins and is it Higgins? I think Jaden Higgins is the other receiver. I just think, and Schultz, I think they've found something. And now that Stroud is back from the concussion, he looked good. I'll give him another week back and getting in the flow of things. I just think Houston is a team on a hot streak, and I'm going to ride that hot streak. Kansas City is a team on the decline, and I think we're starting to see the culmination of the last few years of their success finally catching up with them, where the players are getting older, they're more predictable. They're not as fierce of an opponent as they were in the past, where teams were afraid to go in and play against this Kansas City team. And I think the secondary for Houston is going to be able to create some turnovers, and the pass rush for Houston is going to be able to pressure Patrick Mahomes. So give me the Texans plus 3.5. This one could certainly make our 5. And that's the Sunday night game. Good primetime game. Under the lights in Arrowhead. We'll have to check the weather report in that one too. Any games that are being played outdoors at this time this season, you certainly need to take a look at the weather report. The wind in Kansas City is always a factor. If it's blowing in that stadium, it could certainly be a factor in that game. And then the Monday night game, Philadelphia Eagles taking on the LA Chargers. Philadelphia off that tough loss at home to Chicago. This team just looks totally out of sync. Chargers looked outstanding playing a very bad Raiders team. So I don't know exactly what to make of that outcome. And Justin Herbert broke his left hand, not his throwing hand, but his offhand. Played the rest of the game with that, what looked like a Nintendo glove on. Now he's going to have surgery, and they're not sure if he's going to miss time or not. I originally liked Philly -2. It's now at -3. I still think that's the right side. This is another game that could potentially make my 5, as I think you're going to get a very good performance by the Eagles defense. I don't see the Chargers being able to run the ball as well as they did against the Raiders, against this very good Philadelphia front. And if somehow this offense can just get out of its own way and figure things out, I don't know exactly what's going on, but they've got all the pieces in place for this team to be outstanding. They're still leading the NFC North, but they do have Dallas on their heels. They're still fighting for that number 1 seed with Chicago. So everything's in front of this Philadelphia Eagles team. Non-conference game. They are traveling out to LA, but you're going to get a lot of Eagles fans in Los Angeles. There is a lot of people who live in LA who are originally from the East Coast, from Philadelphia and that area of Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, who are Eagles supporters. So you're going to see a big contingent of Eagles fans in the crowd in LA. As someone who has I used to work in Los Angeles a lot back when I used to build movie theaters. I've met a lot of people in Los Angeles who are from that area, who are big-time Eagles fans. So expect a large contingent of Philadelphia Eagles fans in this crowd. It's probably 50-50. So it's not going to be a true home game for LA. They might even have to go into a silent count when they're on offense. But I like Philly here. I'll lay the 3. If you can find it under 3, if you can find the 2.5 still. I mean, it was 2 at the opening line. And now, look, Chargers are getting 54% of the tickets, but 86% of the money. Might have to take a deeper dive into this one. Why, though? If they're getting that much of the money, why would there be the reverse line movement going from -2 to -3, right? Like, why would the line shift against Philly to make them an even bigger favorite if that much money is coming in on LA? That is a big indicator. Something you need to keep an eye on, that this reverse line movement, if they're getting 86% of the money, and yet it opened at 2 and now sits at 3. Looks like it's 3 minus 105. So a little bit better on the juice than the typical minus 110 line. But a total of 41. I just think you're going to get the best performance from Philadelphia. Not sure what's going on with Justin Herbert and his hand. How's that going to affect him in the game? Is he going to have to protect himself and he's not going to be able to use the offhand to fight off defenders? I just think you're going to get a really good game from Philadelphia. So Philly's in my first 5 thoughts of potentially using them for the Circa Million Contest, but I'm willing to lay the 3. If you can find it under 3, I'd like that even better, but it looks like there's only one place right now that is still at 2.5. ESPN Bet. I don't even think they exist anymore. And yet you've got the Chargers with 54% of the tickets, 86% of the money, and yet the line is now better for them at +3 than it was at +2. So reverse line movement there for Philly. So I'm going to stick with my original thoughts and stay on the Eagles side here for the Monday night matchup. Well, that is it for the Week 14 Early Line Show. Again, be sure to join us on Thursday for the Circa Lines release show. And tonight, the Monday Night Football watch party, as we will be sweating out our Giants plus 7.5 to see if we can close out the week with a positive winning record. We are sitting at 2-2. We need this win to just stay within striking distance of the paid positions, as again the leaders of the Circa contest really struggled this week. We have an opportunity, even at 3-2, to gain a little bit of ground on the top 100 entries. And we will also have the late night at the lounge show at the conclusion of Monday Night Football, where we will discuss our Week 13 results. But to everyone out there, I hope you are enjoying this Monday after the holiday with some extra money in your pockets. We've got some great games coming up this Week 14, some very big games involving some playoff implications. We will have a better understanding of where we stand for Week 14 on Thursday. So be sure to join us on Thursday during the Thursday night football game on Prime for the watch party and the Circa Lines release. Well, to everyone out there, be sure to take care of yourselves, and thanks for watching.